I found this gently used Ruger Redhawk at my favorite local gun store back in the wintertime when it was freezing cold. And after examining it and seeing the asking price, I figured it was a no-brainer. And as you know, no-brainers are my specialty. So even though I really don't have any practical need for it, I thought it would be a great opportunity to get acquainted with a modern classic. And let's be honest, shooting .44 Magnum is always a good time. Okay, now 2 big changes. I have taken off the scope, as you can plainly see. I've reattached the rear sight, and I can't remember. I cannot remember if I've sighted it in or not. I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. We'll find out here in a minute. And I have taken off the wood grip, which I like. It's very pretty and it's even comfortable to hold, but it's not so comfortable to shoot. And I've put on a Packmeyer grip. At first I tried a Hogue grip and it was awful. It sucked, it was horrible, it didn't fit, I didn't like it. I don't ever want to talk to them again. So I went with a Packmeyer, which is, in my mind, a more trustworthy company. There we go. And that has a nice feel. So I think I'm going to like that. Let's try it. 15 yards downrange. I'm shooting Federal American Eagle ammo. The Packmeyer definitely helps. Gives you a little bit of cushion on that back strap. Where am I hitting? Pretty high, right? May not even be on camera down there. Let's find out after these 6. Yeah, definitely high. That should be it. All right, let's go check that out. See if I need to adjust this rear sight. Looks like I do. All right, brought that rear sight down a little bit. Let's try 6 more. Same distance, same everything. I didn't even patch up my holes. We know where they were, so. One thing about .44 Magnum, oh, where'd I hit? Right down at 6 o'clock, it looks like. You always have a little bit of flinch factor with a .44 Magnum because you know what's coming. And then you pull the trigger, you know, and you get that kick and you go, well, that wasn't so bad. Looks like we're eating up some orange now. You see that kick? See, my support hand was almost not touching, and it really allowed the gun to torque. To the left. My hands are so sweaty, hard to hold a tight grip. Did I fire 6 shots or only 5? That should have been 6. All right, looks like a little bit better. It looks like within the skill range of this shooter, we're probably on pretty good for elevation. All right, now let's try 6 of my hand loads. These are never before shot brand new cases, so the brass is Starline brass, again brand new brass, good quality plated bullets, CCI Magnum primers. I shot some of these from 50 yards with this gun and did not get great results, so I'll be curious to see how I do freehand, freestyle, from back here at just 15. And as you can probably see, they are much tamer, not nearly as much recoil. So I load them to be somewhere in between 44 special and 44 mag. They run about 1,000 feet per second, but not in a straight line apparently. So that's the other part. If it's not an accurate load, what good is it? But it is a whole lot more enjoyable to shoot, especially if you're going to spend the day with a 44 Magnum. Well, those weren't as bad as I thought. So I'll just relax a little bit now and do some double action. So the Redhawk, as I said, I have absolutely no practical purpose to own this gun. It was such a great deal, and it's such a classic gun, such an iconic revolver that, you know, there was no point passing it up, so I didn't. But I'm not a handgun hunter. Not really a hunter at all. And that's what I think its niche is. The trigger is okay, but it's not as good as a Smith. And it's not as comfortable ergonomically as a Smith & Wesson. I tend to, I'm a Smith guy, I admit it, freely. Smith & Wesson revolver was the first gun I ever owned, so maybe it's that. And maybe it's just because I've shot so many of them. But I like the feel of the Smith & Wesson. I like the feel of the action. I like the feel of the grip and the handle and the overall ergonomics. The way the trigger is positioned to your hand when you're gripping the revolver and so on. The Redhawk is just a little different. And of course, as we all know, different is automatically bad. The gun already had a Bushnell scope mounted on it, and it was equipped with the optional scope mounting system from Ruger. That includes the rings and the cuts for mounting them. I took it to the range soon after for just a quick test, and I only fired a handful of rounds through it because it was obvious right away that the scope had been sighted in for a much longer distance. I decided I'd rather wait and shoot it at that distance, or at least a longer distance, rather than adjust it for a mere 25 yards. So now fast forward to when it's very hot out, and I got a chance to take the Redhawk back out to the range and do some proper shots at 50 yards. I had a hunch that the scope might have 100 yards zero, but it should still be on paper at 50, and I didn't feel like marching back and forth at 100 yards in 100 degrees. I used the high-quality CTK Precision compact rest and a small variety of ammo, including some hand-loaded mild 44 Magnum, and I got decent results. Alright, let's take a look at this accuracy, starting with the most worstest, working toward the most bestest. So the most worstest was my own hand loads, and that was these three, starting, at least I can stretch my fingers enough to touch the two outlying holes. But these three shots were my hand loads. This was again at 50 yards, and that measures 5.115 inches. So nothing real great to report about that. So definitely, if I wanted to shoot my hand loads at distance, I've got a little bit of work to do with them. Okay, next worst, and by no means is it bad, is the Federal. Federal 44 Magnum loads shot this group at 50 yards, and that measures 3.173 inches. That's actually pretty respectable. And the next best group, and if it looks like there's four, this one belongs down here with the Just an Opinion hand loads. So it's those three right there. Those three at 50 yards were Hornady, and they measured 2.68 inches, and that is a pretty respectable group at 50 yards. And that brings us to the most bestest, and the most bestest is pretty obvious. I mean, considerably better than any other group, and that is those three holes right there. And yeah, they printed a few inches high, but that's just a matter of adjusting elevation. But that is a sweet looking group, and that group belongs to, which shouldn't really be a big surprise, it's not to me, Sig Sauer V-Crown. I just find this ammo in every caliber I shoot it in to be very accurate and extremely consistent. So Sig Sauer V-Crown printed a 50-yard group of 1.28 inches, just barely over an inch and a quarter at 50 yards, and that is pretty impressive when you consider the bonehead that was doing the shooting. And you know, Sig Sauer does provide ammunition to this channel on a frequent basis, but they did not provide this ammunition. So just for your information, when I go out and buy good ammo to do testing, I'm buying Sig Sauer ammo. I did the initial shooting and accuracy testing using the stock wood grips. They're comfortable to hold and they're beautiful to admire, but they're not very helpful to the shooter during live fire. I tried to put a set of Hogue grips on, but it's not easy to understand which type fits the model, and I got the wrong grips. I also don't like the attachment method that Hogue uses, so I opted to order a set of Pachmayr grips. I think the Pachmayrs look good on this large revolver, and more importantly, I think Pachmayr provides a much better cushion than the Hogue, as well as attaching properly to the gun. Shooting the Redhawk from a rest and focusing on trigger brake and aim rather than recoil was interesting. I just let the gun do as it pleased, which I tend to do with big bore handguns, and that meant enormous muzzle rise. The only thing that makes me cringe when I watch that happening is the distance it falls back onto the rest. Certainly a test for the durability of the scope. All in all, I think the Redhawk is a nice add to the collection in 44 Magnum. You can see and feel the toughness and the quality in this gun, and I can understand why it's a favorite among handgun hunters. Perhaps one day soon I'll do a head-to-head between this and the Smith & Wesson Model 29. That would be fun. Hey, don't be afraid to click like if you like the video, and don't be afraid to subscribe if you think you might like to see more like it. Huge thank you to my Patreon patrons. You guys rock. Couldn't do it without you.